The second Harry Potter movie, The Chamber of Secrets, elaborates, I think, in some ways, on a theme presented in the first one, but in a much more compelling way. The first one features the Mirror of Erised, something that shows the viewer what the viewer most wants to see. But in the second movie, there's an even more intriguing premise, which perhaps posits that there is something similar to the Mirror of Erised within everyone of any level of intelligence, from the lowest cat down or right up to Hermione Granger, the well-educated and most learned person of her age at Hogwarts. And this is perhaps a natural defense mechanism against the truth. Multiple cats or people encounter, with the exception of Hermione, an unexpected, unknown phenomenon in the form of the basilisk. And none of them are killed by it because they all find some way to not see it exactly as it is. They see it in small, survivable doses instead, a weak reflection of what it really is. And this has intrigued me because I've found people doing critical analyses who just over and over again in the most popular videos are looking for the truth in only a very small dose, very tentatively, in the place where they are least likely to find it all at once. So that if it were something like the gaze of the basilisk, it would not be able to harm them, or at least do maximum damage. So I've decided to try to take this approach to studying the movie as an illustration of how these people think and how we might look at our own ways of misperceiving the world. And that is a method of critical analysis, where one looks at every aspect of a phenomenon in the most peripheral way possible. In the case of the second movie, that means examining a certain theme without mentioning the best expression of it. Examining everything similar to a certain character without mentioning the character who most exemplifies it. This is what I've seen in Bible analysis, and what, in order to make it more palatable, I hope, I'll present here. The Chamber, I dare not speak his name. The Chamber of Secrets is a movie that builds its plot structure, one might even say its pot structure, by presenting a series of pots. The process of becoming a witch or wizard at Hogwarts is the process of training potters, people who are skilled at manipulating pots, and this shows up quite early in the movie. When the Weasley family wants to go to Diagon Alley to buy their school supplies, they use flue powder, and they pull it out of a pot. And they disappear from the chimney by throwing it down and apparently bursting into flames. An excellent foreshadowing of the role that the Phoenix Fox will later play in the movie, and the Order of the Phoenix several movies later. And when they arrive at Diagon Alley, we see another very important pot. Ginny's cauldron, into which Lucius Malfoy takes her book and slips an extra one back in. A book of secrets slipped into a pot. Extremely symbolic and a little creepy, and perhaps almost beyond what I can see on YouTube. But the cauldron is a precursor symbol of the Holy Grail, and this is what Ginny represents. Lucius Malfoy burns with envy for the Weasleys. He is someone who, as a Voldemort fan, is obsessed with the purity and continuity of the bloodline, and he has only one son to carry it on, while the lowly Weasleys have not only 6 sons, but a daughter as well. And a daughter very symbolically and powerfully named. And one who can live up to her name. Who turns out to be one of the most powerful and talented, determined people in the Potter universe. This is because she's named inherently as a bloodline. She has the name of the end of the biblical bloodline in the Ginny. It's also a royal name, Virginia, Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen. And in the Bible, she's the conclusion of a bloodline, the ultimate one. In her weaknesses, her desire to know, to learn forbidden knowledge and secrets, she's very much like Eve, who starts a different bloodline. Though in a way, she's like an alpha and an omega. In the present, she's a pure blood and represents everything Malfoy and his group are striving for, and everything that would make her a perfect source of life for Voldemort, who is not a pure blood for all his hatred of mudbloods and half-bloods. And if you're trying to build a new life force for himself, would want to draw it from someone like Ginny Weasley. He might even be seen as a metaphor for Prince Charles and the royal family, who brought in Diana because of her bloodline. And so Ginny, then, is the holder, the carrier, the cup, the Holy Grail that carries this bloodline, this code, this genetic code, and the record, the genealogy that it entails. She is a chamber of secrets. In fact, the chamber of secrets of the movie. She must keep secrets, and she has them within her all the time because people don't see what a powerful character she is. And this it's hinted on at very early on with the slipping of the book into the cauldron. Now, the next step, just in case you didn't get that, is a scene in the greenhouse at Hogwarts, where students are assigned the somewhat dangerous and apparently utterly pointless task of taking dangerous sentient plants out of one pot and putting them into another pot. Symbolically, this could be J.K. Rowling's way of saying, I just pointed your attention towards a very important pot, very important plot point in this story, and there's going to be another one coming up. After that, the pots continue. Some of them are not fully evolved, such as the cages in the first visit that we make to Hagrid's house. You get a view up toward the ceiling, toward these cages. So some of them are sort of what could hold liquid, but they aren't filled in. Of course, they're just empty bars and empty floors. But in that scene, Hermione has just been severely insulted by Draco over a question of blood. And she feels very upset about it. And Ron has tried to defend her, had his own spell backfire, and is spurting up these slugs out of his mouth into a pail. Another proto-pot, if you will. And these things continue on, so that the next time we see cages, it's in the classroom with the professor, who is telling everyone how to take an animal and turn it into another liquid container, this time a goblet, sort of a Holy Grail-shaped goblet. Ron doesn't quite do this right, and makes a furry version with a tail instead. Some more somewhat perhaps raunchy symbolism when you consider that the cup is a feminine symbol. Now, this goes on. The messages, of course, the threatening messages that warn people about what will come out of the chamber and secrets are all written in blood. And there's, of course, other fluids involved that hint at the body and the processes that go on there, and which are hinted at by Myrtle, someone who also perhaps represents the basilisk defense effect, in that she saw the creature straight on, right up to the moment of death, and still remembers only its eyes. But she inhabits, of course, another pot, which has been endlessly parodied in comic features by fans, and even apparently a BBC program, in that the Chamber of Secrets becomes the chamber pot of secrets, and this version of the pot is, of course, the toilet. But it's so little used because of the presence of Myrtle that it actually produces more potable water than the attempt at making a potable potion from a cauldron. The one that was foreshadowed when everybody was in the greenhouse, which Hermione uses to brew something that people can't drink without throwing up, and which produces more feminine symbolism because Hermione makes a mistake and takes on the appearance of a cat instead of the woman from the rival house Slytherin that she was trying to imitate. There are also more insertions of pots in the spine of the book that Hermione takes out of the library to research on how to make the polyjuice potion to learn more about the Chamber of Secrets from Malfoy. And this is one that says most potent potions on the back. So the pot count keeps rising as the movie goes on. Some of them overtly stated, and some of them symbolic or subliminal. But they together make this feminine presence, so that although Ginny doesn't spend a lot of time on the screen, she's always represented and hinted at in some way, just below the surface. It even reveals Malfoy as a seeker. So he is thought of as someone who has found the answer already, and which Hermione and Ron search for, but who is actually looking for it as well, and which they fail to notice. Hagrid is visited again later on, and this time, the first thing you see, instead of the view of his roof where these incomplete pot shapes are, is a pot, and he's pouring out tea. And when the various people enter his house, this time the camera pans around to the walls, and there are many container shapes, like urns and some a little more like pots, but all of these, some of them even having roughly feminine shapes to them. But the house looks completely different because the pot is thickening, you might say. The concentration of things that will actually hold water appears much higher the second time you see Hagrid's house than the first time, when Ron was coughing up the snails. As the movie goes on, you get closer to the source. You get closer to the wettest part. And the movie seems to gradually get a little wetter because there's more time spent going back and forth, and shorter trips back and forth to the toilet room. And eventually, the hidden water stand that opens up and allows everyone down into the bowels, or the pipes that carry the liquids through the hidden chambers within. And this goes on until the movie is resolved. At the end, we finally find Ginny herself at the core of this maze of deception and failure of other people to see her, really, which has been one of the major themes of the movie. And even then, she's sort of brought out and then passed over again toward the end of the movie. And that is what I've seen in this strange phenomenon of people not seeing these New Testament meanings when they examine something in the Old Testament. The Old Testament isn't the best place to look. I'll get more on what the exact question is. Of course, it's the Nephilim question and how it's supposed to be the key to unlocking the whole Bible. But I'll try and save that for another video.